Well, welcome back. I'm going to tell more about some books on the Seminole War, and this time I'll be giving a few biographies. There are not many, so it'll just be a short one, and I'm sure there are more that I didn't cover, so I'll just cover a few. Um, I can think of a few, but either I don't have them or they're in storage, either way. And so let's begin. Sorry about reaching back, but I hide the clutter around my desk really good here. So only place to set the books as a pile is on the floor. The first book we have is Herbert Doherty's Richard Keefe Call Southern Unionist. And Richard Keefe Call was one of the territorial governors of Florida. He was a protege of Andrew Jackson and came to Jackson during the First Seminole War when Florida became a territory. He moved in as a Southern plantation owner and became the militia general and then was elected governor to two different terms. Actually, elected's not correct. He was a territorial governor, which means they were appointed, not elected. And that book is available through the Seminole Wars Foundation, which I'll put a link in the description if anyone's interested. And so is this next book, Aristocrat in Uniform, General Duncan Elk Lich, also available from the Seminole Wars Foundation. There are other books available on General Gaines or General Jesup that I've seen them on eBay, but I don't know if they're in print anymore. This next book, I actually picked it up in Oklahoma, must have been about 2010, 10 years ago, my last trip. John Elder, Everlasting Fire, Cowokoci's Legacy in the Seminole Struggle Against Western Expansionism. Really good book, kind of thick, but I thought it was well written and I enjoyed that one. It's it's kind of historic. It's a novel, historical fiction. Well, I guess it's a historical novel, not so much in fiction. Uh, Next book's very short. I saw her on Facebook and she had an ad, and I wrote and ordered a copy. I don't know where it's sold. I think it's printed by one of the subsidiaries of Amazon, so it might be on there. John Horse by Betty Turso, and that's kind of a generic cover, but that kind of shows me it may have been done by Create Space Press. And not much to say on that, but I thank anyone who does an effort on John Horse, who's not that well known outside of Seminole history. And the next we'll tackle Osceola, everybody's favorite. I remember one time I was at Dade Battlefield and somebody came up and said, "Oh, hello, I'm writing a novel on Osceola." And I said, "Okay." I'm thinking to myself, "Oh no, not another one." It's like we've had so many books written on Osceola, and most of them are not very good. They really don't understand the culture or the native people. But I'll throw a few at you, some of the newer ones, but actually, I'll start with the old one. This is not fiction. This is a science or scientific study and the history and journal, getting down to the original historical documents. It's the Florida Historical Quarterly in 1955 had what they called the double Osceola issue and just several essays on Osceola's life. Then about 30 years ago, Patricia Wickman wrote a very comprehensive book on Osceola called Osceolas Legacy. And that's the first printing. And 15 years later or so, came out with a second edition that's much bigger and nicer cover, has the Curtis painting on the front, and a little more research going into it. So, I appreciate that. And that's actually a very good book. Try and look into the material objects Osceola has, genealogy, family history, even trying to do some DNA study on his remaining hair. And it seems like every few months people write me from my webpage and say, "Oh, I'm related to Osceola," and if they say that, usually I don't believe them because I have so many people say that to me that I really want some proof. But um, I do know somebody who is actually descended from Osceola who knows a lot of genealogy information that's not public, and they say they know who they're related to and know who the families are. So I'll just leave it at that. Osceola, the Unconquered Indian by William and Ellen Hartley. A very good book, but it's printed in 1973, almost 50 years ago, which means you'll have to look on eBay or used books websites to get this. But it's a very good novel. It's well researched. This next book, I think he did a good effort, researched a lot of things. There's some things I disagree with. Osceola, his capture in Seminole Legends by William Ryan of the Flagler Historical Society. Uh, I enjoy the book. Then again, it has some things that just make me absolutely cringe. For example, he says that Andrew Jackson had black hair, which he didn't. He goes through a detailed preparation of the black drink or Aussie, and it's all wrong. It's, not the way I make it. Adding some ingredients that don't go in there. And of course, he doesn't give the song. And then he has Seminole children named after owls, which is absolutely taboo. And that's kind of probably what turned me off the most. Then there's a book that's been popular the last few years. I'm not going to put it in the description because I think it's just one of the worst books to come around in a long time. It's Osceola and the Great Seminole War by Tom Hatch. And I don't know why he wrote a book on Osceola. His research is pretty bad. He has details of the Dade battle that are all wrong. He says things like the soldiers left Fort Brooke to go to Tampa Bay. Of course, Fort Brooke is right on Tampa Bay. So I don't understand why he wrote that. And unfortunately, that's considered a popular book at the time, although he quotes some of the Seminole War authors and misquotes them too. I checked some of the sources he mentioned, and they're not even in there. So it's what makes me upset when somebody doesn't know what they're writing about. Just for fun, these are some older books. This is a kind of like a poetry or maybe a theatrical play. I found this probably on eBay. Osceola, the Seminole Chief, an unremembered saga. Just going to show that. Just for giggles, romance novel, Lucia St. Clair Robson, Light a Distant Fire. And I see this everywhere in used bookstores, multiple copies. The cover has Osceola with his daughter in a canoe. So, uh, just a lot of things wrong with the history there. There's some children's books that found these on eBay, or they're actually not very bad. Some of them have pretty good illustrations. And I even have a book. This is printed in 1908 with Osceola in Florida by Frederick Ober. There's, he he wrote different novels like Boy Scouts on the Western Frontier or the Western Front, or Boy Scouts, with pirates, juvenile fiction, but nothing in here is historically correct. It's kind of just a novel of the time, kind of fun to read, and has a few interesting pictures and, just pure fiction like a Tarzan book. So anyway, that's all I'm going to do right now. And I have some other books that are coming that either I ordered or for real cheap, or the bookstores are closed, or I got stuff in storage. Um, so it may be a while before I do two of these. I think I have another set of books on battles and events and forts of the Seminole War that I can probably do pretty soon and put something out for that. Everybody likes to see what's available on the forts and the battles, although those books are sometimes a little difficult to procure, but I'll give those explanations when I do the video. And thank you for being here.